Welcome to the first webinar in our new series. It's called the Professional Growth Webinar Series. It's always going to be a free resource for anyone who comes in and joins us. So we're very excited that everyone is here and excited about this webinar topic. Digital Workshop Center is an online vocational tech school that focuses on empowering students with skills and not degrees. Some of you are familiar faces, so we welcome you back to us. But there are some new faces, so we welcome you guys, and we are very excited that you are here with us. Today, we have Jenny Fisher and Dana Voldy, two of our very own instructors who have been freelancing experts for quite some time now. And Jenny will overview and get us started with the basics of freelancing, including how to set up your own freelance business, creating a business plan, and building a brand. And then Dana will overview how to meet and keep clientele, including how to build those long-term relationships and manage client expectations. So, let's make sure I can. There we go. At the end of our hour together, we are going to have a bit of a 15-20 minute Q&A session. I do ask that if you have a question that pops up in your head as we are speaking, please write it down through the chat. You can share it with all of us, or you can message me privately if you want to remain anonymous with your question. At the end of it, I will make sure that we have time and we get through all of those questions at the end. So anything that you might need an answer for, definitely message me or just message the chat for you. The webinar is recorded, so we will have a link provided to everyone who has attended today. I'll send you a short link to your email at the end of the day today. So other than that, I think, Jenny, I will hand it off to you.
All right, thanks so much. And yeah, let's get started. I do recognize a bunch of names on the list, so good to see you guys again, and join you in this capacity. I think this will be a good conversation. For those of you who I don't know, I am Jenny Fisher. I teach the digital marketing strategies courses, both the introductory and the advanced digital marketing strategies. And in my freelance capacity, my first degree is in graphic design, and so a lot of my freelance clients, I do a lot of design work for them, a lot of website building and logos and just about anything else they need. My second degree is in journalism innovation, and so that led me to the kind of the strategy world. Like, I started out in content strategy and largely with digital, and then I also teach full-time at Colorado State in the journalism department. And so so kind of using all those hats. So that's kind of where my perspective comes from when I'm as I'm going through the slides and kind of describing my experience with freelancing and kind of how I look at that, how I've built up my business. So I'll go get started with the next slide. So first of all, what is freelancing? A freelancer is a person who works for themselves. As I was putting this slide together, I was thinking about one of the funnier conversations I've had about freelancing, with someone who's never done it, never considered it, barely knows what it is. And she's like, well, could I call myself a freelancer? I freelance laundry. I do, I freelance dinner from time to time, and it's, well, technically, yes, but, a freelancer essentially, the short version is they're a person who works for themselves. So a freelancer is completely 100% self-employed, but that doesn't mean that it's all about just, pounding the pavement by yourself and getting out there constantly, even though networking is a big part of it. There is absolutely room for partnerships. There's room for contract work with freelancing, and you can, kind of take on an annual contract, a 6-month contract with a business, in addition to doing kind of project by project work. Um, and in my own freelance experience, I tend to have a variety of different business arrangements going on at any given point in time, from a one-off project that needs attention to a longer span relationship, to generate and maintain a marketing strategy, or print or web work, or all of the above. It could be a combination of things. um, Freelancers also tend to work together kind of a lot, and share work and play to each other's strengths to get a project done in the best way possible. In my own experience, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but in my own experience, I tend to partner with a web developer that I've worked with for many years now on bigger projects, just so that I have that kind of lift. I have that oomph behind me where I'm working with an expert, and so I can focus more on the design aspects. And we kind of play to each other's strengths, divide the workload a little bit so that we can get the project done in a better way. One of the highlights of freelancing is that you do kind of get to control your own destiny. You find and cultivate your own clients, and you call your shots based on what your experience level is, a lot of time what your bandwidth is, what your workload looks like at any given point in time. And so you can say, like, well, I'm available maybe 2 months out for this project. And if a client looks like they're not going to be a fit for some reason, you can say no. You can kind of walk away. So there is a little bit of autonomy in being a freelancer, which is kind of what makes it an interesting way to go, because you can kind of, you have your expertise, you have your niche, and you have all of that experience behind you, and so you're definitely in the driver's seat when it comes to that. Next slide. So finding that niche, this is where it takes a little bit of navel gazing. Like you kind of look at yourself and figure out, what are your strengths. When I started freelancing forever ago, my strength really was in working with printers. And I had a lot of my first partners in my freelance business were in the print industry, because that was how I had gotten my first job, and that was where my experience lied. And back then, I thought I was going to do that forever, but I barely do any print anymore. It's more about the web and social and all everything that walks and talks. And so it will change over time, but finding that niche and finding that area in which you are an expert, it takes some time. And it also, in addition to your own expertise, it's kind of the direction you want to take your business in. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Playing to your strengths, leaning on those partnerships, those people who know who you are, other businesses that maybe need a hand, and then figuring out what your business is going to look like from there. Another kind of key thing to look for is maybe if there's something missing in the current local business landscape. Like, is there a need for small businesses for a specific industry, maybe small medical practices or something like that? Is there a key ingredient that is missing in your local business landscape, like kind of a hole that you can fill? A good example of this, the last time I taught the digital marketing strategy class, I don't think she's on here, but I had a student in there who was very focused on marketing for estheticians in her area. And that was her background. And so she was kind of combining two strengths, because she had been an esthetician before, and she was building up a really solid design portfolio. So she kind of combined those two strengths, and that's her niche. that's what she wanted to do. She knows it very, very well and had some really good ideas about how to help those estheticians who may need a little marketing help, and then also how to present herself as a person with that expertise to have the capability to give them that help. Next slide. So in setting up your business, step one, well, step one, like B, I guess, is finding your team. And this team, here, this is not an exhaustive list, nor is this a mandatory list of people that you need to have on your side, but it's kind of to give you an idea of the kind of people that you want to have on your team. Lawyer and accountant are great first steps, at least for getting started. You can file the LLC paperwork on your own, but you may want to have a lawyer on your side for, reviewing contracts and, stuff like that. Even if it's at the very beginning, if you use a service like LegalZoom or something like that, touching in to make sure that you're not leaving yourself too exposed, and making sure that you're doing the right things as far as getting your business set up in the first place and including important details in those contracts, and in having contracts in the first place is an important first step. The accountant goes without saying, they can be your very best friend and your savior. And so finding one that you like, one that is preferably nearby. Mine is also a freelancer, and so we kind of have that shared perspective of what that looks like. And then, after that, the list kind of goes on. You may need someone to help with tech. You may need vendor partners. Like I mentioned, the two kinds of vendor partners that I've had in the past, who are printers, and then a web development company that kind of has my back. I've also hired photographers, writers, illustrators, and other creatives to help out with projects. Like if they have a specific style or a specific skill set that helps with my project, I kind of keep that group close by so that I can bring them in when there's a project that calls for skills that I just don't have, or if they have something special that can work to kind of shine up the project and make it even better. Next slide. So in filing your paperwork, sometimes the hardest part is naming the baby. What are you going to call your business? I kind of phoned mine in. It's Fisher Creative, but it does the job. And so that's how the LLC is registered, and that's what I call myself. Other paperwork that you may want to include is if you are going to get into the retail end of things, maybe getting a sales tax license or a wholesale license. I just went through that process for my husband, because he's kind of getting into stuff like that, and it's you just walk in the door and sit down. It takes about 20 minutes, but thinking about the kind of business that you're going to get into, and there are some services for which you can charge the sales tax, and so understanding, and this is where the legal piece comes into play, understanding what paperwork you need and what licenses you need in order to do the business that you intend is a really big step. And then also filing those quarterly taxes, because while in some cases it's okay, and I've made this mistake of not filing quarterly taxes, and the accountant wasn't super pumped, but she wasn't exactly mad. So but it's always a better idea to have your taxes filed quarterly, and just kind of staying on top of that to keep the IRS happy and keep your business healthy. Have a better understanding of what the balance sheet looks like. Next slide. So creating your business plan, and this is something where if you've gone through my class, we kind of go through a couple of exercises in which we do this. But really creating your business plan is really getting an understanding for who your audience is going to be, who the people are that you intend to work with and work for. And then also understanding from your own side what you need to have, what skills, what resources, what people, everything you need to have on your side in order to do that in the best way possible. So in creating your business plan, and I don't have a sample. They take all different forms, believe me. But really, it's all about kind of outlining what work you intend to do and how you intend to get from A to B. How you intend to, service those clients, keep people on board. If there are any specific maybe packages that you want to include for when I was first getting into digital strategy and social, I wanted to get, kind of entice small businesses. And so I had a social media strategy package for small businesses that was really reasonable. And I worked within all kinds of budgets to that end. And so things like that, maybe rolling in like a logo with like business papers and, a landing page design or something like that. And, kind of packaging different products that you offer, different, even different skill sets that you have so that you can make that price, make that a little bit more palatable and a little bit easier to understand for especially a small business who's coming your way. Um, Finding out what to charge your clients can be tricky, but there are a lot of resources out there. And sometimes those resources come in the form of other people in your local area that are doing the same things that you do. It can be as simple as looking around and trying to find those hourly rates. If there are packages that other people are offering, looking to your competition and trying to align with what they're charging and what their services look like, or when it comes to the service offerings, diverging a little bit to edge yourself out and to bring something new to the table. Next slide. And then finally, building your brand. You have your niche, you have your business plan, you have your awesome team right behind you ready to go. And so when it comes to building your brand, that's where, this is kind of the fun part. And it's definitely more than just a logo. Your brand includes your voice, as a freelancer, it's your personality. It's who you are bringing to the table. It's how you talk about yourself, your clients, and your services. And so there's really a lot that goes into that in addition to the logo, the images, and how you use color and different elements in your digital space. Creating your portfolio, which it's hilarious that this is a bullet point because my website is currently under construction. I swear, it's my husband compares me to the lawn care company with the worst lawn on the block because I have like literally nothing right now. Soon, but not right now. So I found some awesome samples though. And I think we have time to click through maybe a couple of them. Yeah, Awesome Sauce is a great sample. These guys are all about their personality. And this is a business that is run by a friend of mine and his wife, and they are absolutely just full of personality, and that oozes out of their website. And then they show their work in their portfolio on the website, and I think you can click in to one of the projects. Yeah. And so it kind of goes through and shows and just kind of describes what the project is, what their rules were, and how they put it all together just really quickly. So this is a great example of another, like I said, they're designers and web developers, and they get into kind of a little bit of everything. And then another good example we'll go through one more. Let's do V3 Media. This is a videographer here in town. Um, and what I like about this one is that right up front, they're showing you video. So they're showing you their capability. And then the first button that you see right there is watch what we can do for you. And so it kind of brings that air of like, let's work together. Let's start our project right now. Um, and then they also show, turning videos into views, views into sales. And so it brings about that value. It tells you exactly what kind of value they can bring to the table. Um, this Logan, who owns V3, he has a completely different personality than Awesome Sauce. He is much more, you know, detail oriented. He's been working in the video and movie and TV industry for a very, very long time, and so he's kind of all business, and that comes through in this website. So it tends to be it's still very effective, but just in a very different way, a very different look and feel. And so that brings us to handing it off to Dana.
Thank you, Jenny. I loved all of that. I work a lot like Jenny does. I am up here in Wyoming and I have my marketing consulting company and that I've had for 14 years now. So I have a partner who's got his own business that does what Jenny does because I don't do design and web work and commercial work. So I am on the other side of it, which is the marketing, media placement, branding. Well, I mean, they're both branding. It all works together. But a lot of that media relationships, business relationships, I'm often the one who brings in our clients and then has him, have him come in and then we tag team our clients together. So that's just a little bit of how I kind of run mine. So when you're starting out, you do all the stuff Jenny suggested about getting your name, your brand, filing the right paperwork, paying the IRS is important. I also, I have an accountant because it is the worst thing. I just cannot. So definitely had to bring that on. We play to our strengths, right? That is not a strength of mine. So he's amazing and keeps me, out of IRS jail. So I appreciate that. But when you're like, oh, I want to do this and I have all these great ideas and I've done the training, how do you get the clients? It can be very daunting and overwhelming to finally have to go outside and be bringing money in. And that can sometimes be one of the harder parts about freelancing and what we do. So my suggestions are some stuff I did, some stuff I wish I would have done, but you've got to go to where the businesses are. So this is part of what Jenny was saying with the networking. So not only do you want to network with like-minded people because maybe you want to use their services, but you also have to start networking with the people who are in business that can make those decisions, that can get you to the right people. So you want to start going to things like the Chamber of Commerce events in your local area, any other kind of networking situations. There's Rotary is very business oriented and philanthropic in the areas, and that can get you into nonprofits. You want to do the industry stuff that Jenny talked about. So she met with printers. So if that's going to kind of be your cohorts, identifying who you're going to work with and then start meeting them in social environments. And a lot of it is that networking, and there's kind of no way around it. You have to identify what might work for you. There's networking industry exclusive circles like BNI, circles of influence. Maybe it's called something different in your area, but they usually do exist. So finding those, getting involved in those can definitely help. And when I say get involved, it's not just joining your chamber. It is actually going to the events. It is actually utilizing the things that they offer. When I first started, I did join the chamber, and we have an ambassadors group, which I think is pretty across the board, so that anytime a new business was joining the chamber, having a ribbon cutting, I was there to welcome them. And then that got me in the door of some businesses who maybe didn't have marketing set up yet or hadn't thought about that. And so I could kind of be one of the first people to reach them, which was really nice. So you also just kind of have to hit the pavement. Sometimes just going to businesses that you shop in is a good place to start, where maybe they already know your face. That's what I kind of did. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't, but it got me out there, and striking up those conversations with the business owner, with the manager, to just kind of see what they're doing, if they know, do they need help in anything, and kind of what you do. Definitely helps that way too. So it's not glamorous, but it is something that you need to do to get those clients. And then another one that worked really good for me was meeting my media representatives. So whether you are already active with clients or not, it's a good thing to reach out to those local media reps that you may use in the future and start that relationship. That has gone a long way for me in many different aspects. So buying them a cup of coffee, meeting with them, they're always going to be eager to meet because they have sales quotas that they have to make. And if you're somebody who can actively bring in people for them, then, it's a win-win situation. So don't feel awkward about it. Definitely take that leap. Local radio stations, if you have digital online news outlets, any of those people locally that you might want to advertise with, you can make a list and then send some emails, make some calls, and meet with those people. That not only gets you in the door, so it gets your name out there because those people know a lot of people and they chat. And I've had some media reps suggest clients to me because they didn't like working with them directly and they wanted kind of a wrangler, so to speak. And that's sometimes kind of what I do as a marketing consultant. But getting your name out there, meeting them, having that back and forth, letting them know who you are, finding out who they are, cultivating that relationship. So I started that pretty early on as a rule. Whenever I had a new rep or reps changed or a new marketing source, media source that I wanted to use or was thinking about using, would make those relationships so that I then can keep that going. And then when I need something, they're there for me. They're happy to help. Sometimes you get discounts because you bring them a lot of clients, and then you can pass that on to your clients, and everybody's happy about that. And you're showing that you're worth it to have on the team. And so definitely there's different ways to get involved and get those clients. But first and foremost is you've got to get involved in local events and go where the business decision makers are. Can go to the next slide. So another way to add to that would be your elevator pitch, is what I call it. So your 30 seconds of who are you and what do you do? And something that is canned, like it, you've got it memorized, but doesn't look like you're just repeating something. It is natural. It is in a normal speaking way to answer a question. Most of the time people ask, what do you do? And that is kind of your in to tell them what you do, what you want to do for clients, the services that you offer in a very succinct way. Because sometimes when we're unprepared for that, maybe in interviews is a good example, we just go off on a tangent. You start talking about the kids, you start talking about a crazy snow day you had or whatever, and it's not really on topic because you're nervous. And so having something that's canned can go a long way. Hey, I have a marketing consulting company. I help local businesses. I have some statewide businesses that I help. We do anything with media buys, branding, design work, commercial work, drone work if you need. I'm happy to help you. I love doing it. Just something simple, depending on the situation you're in, gives them something to think about, and then you can follow up with it as well as you go on with the conversation. But that can help your nerves too, is being ready. So the portfolio also very important. I did see a lot of familiar names, so hello again. But with the Digital Workshop Center, those have gone through do have a portfolio to show. You've got things that you've worked on. You've worked on websites. You've worked on design elements, email elements, ads that we've gone through. I do teach digital, or I teach for the digital marketing certificate with Digital Workshop Center, and I teach Google Ads and Google Analytics right now. So having that portfolio ready, sometimes what I do is I have a draft email ready to go because I can see my drafts on my phone. And when I meet somebody and I get their contact information, if it's a really good lead, they wanted to know more, I have an email ready to go about services I provide, maybe links that Steve has done for our different commercials and stuff like that. I can personalize, where I met them. It was nice to meet them, and I can send that off right away. And so it's just ready to go. I don't have to take a couple of days to put it together because I'm going to overthink it. It's ready to go, top of mind awareness. We just met. Now they have an email from me. I can ask to have a meeting to further discuss what they might need. So that's really nice to have that at my disposal. So researching industries is also very important because you want to know if you are going into a meeting with somebody, if you have targeted people at a networking event that you would like your foot in the door. The anesthetician example that Jenny gave was great. So doing your research on that beforehand to know what you're going into, to have ideas already ready to go. And just to generally always keep on top of the industry is a good thing. I find it, I'm on Reddit, so I follow some marketing threads, some Google threads, just like industry information. And some people will break it down in chunks about what's new and what's going on. So 5 minutes, I can stay up on things. TikTok, YouTube, those are great places for it too. When you find industry professionals that you can follow and get easy information. So just as a whole, you can keep up with design and marketing trends so that when you have those meetings, you already are an expert in your field. So that is a good foot forward for new clients to reach them. You can go to the next slide. So when we get those clients, we want to provide exceptional service. And sometimes we're not sure what that is. When I started, I certainly did not know because I had always had corporate jobs. So meetings were there, people were there. I never had to initiate meetings. I never had to make sure those lines of communication were open. And that is one of the biggest things that I have learned throughout my 14 years is communication. For better or worse, whether you have good news or bad news to share with them, you have to let them know. You have to be responsive to their needs. You have to be responsive to emails or however you are communicating with them, and be above board. Do not lie. Do not stretch the truth. Do not sugarcoat things. You have to be open and honest with what's going on, which sounds a little dire, but we'll get into that. It's not all dire. It's just the way people communicate. And then email updates as well. So not only have I found you need to set up weekly or monthly meetings with your clients, just they always know the first Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. is when I meet with marketing. So they can save stuff that isn't time sensitive. We can have that download. We are respecting their time, but it is a constant communication thing you have on the books. Some clients need meetings every 2 weeks. And that is how, they need to meet. They need to constantly have that information from you, especially new clients. Sometimes even new clients I'll meet with weekly because we have a lot to talk about. It's very overwhelming for them. Not only have they brought you on, which maybe they didn't have a marketing person before. I like to refer to myself as an external marketing department. And maybe they didn't have that before, or maybe it's new that it's a contractor instead of in-house. And so having those weekly meetings can help make them feel like they have that one-on-one time with you and that communication with you. And then make sure to do email updates. Don't inundate them. You don't have to send them every thought. But if you have a big promotion that has started that day, that's something you lined up a month ago, reminding them about that sort of thing. It's just good to keep those lines of communication open. Go to the next slide. And then, so along with setting your meetings, you want to make sure that you are meeting deadlines and that you're delivering quality work. So setting the expectations on when those deadlines are, a lot of it from my end with marketing are going to be what the marketing deadlines are. So if I'm putting up a billboard, I need to get them creative by a certain date so that they can put it in their system, get the billboard printed, put it up. So keeping track of all of those is really important on your end because that is what you are managing. And I've got my phone, I've got a calendar, I've got a notebook for each client. I go very analog when I'm overwhelmed or like have things to do. I enjoy lists everywhere. But making sure whatever works for you, however works for you, there's a lot of online tools that can help with that if you're an online person. But making sure you know those deadlines and you're managing those deadlines. And then also delivering quality work. So me, myself, I don't do the design. I work with my partner to do design. So making sure I either bring him in on those meetings because I'm a horrible go-between person, or calls or whatnot. I learned a while ago, unfortunately not up front, that I am a really bad middleman because he would be like, well, what are their favorite colors to design a logo? And I'd be like, I didn't ask, I don't know. And so like, I just bring him in on those meetings now. So again, playing to your strengths, but making sure, so when it's a client we work with and I've signed up some ads or something, making sure I get him the design specs on time. I'm asking him what his schedule is like. He's a freelancer as well. He's also got a full-time job. I can't just assume when he has time to do something. And we have many clients that we manage. He's also got other projects that he manages. So making sure I communicate with him to get his schedule so I can set expectations. And then also making sure that I'm noting, oh, hey, this ad is due then. So a couple days before I can be like, hey, have you worked on that ad? Do you have any questions about it? Because he's human as well. And sometimes, things slip our mind, even though he's got his own processes for deadlines. So making sure that you are talking to everybody, you're communicating with everybody, and then the quality of work is there. I'm very secure in Steve, but before that, I went through a couple of people. And so I had to make sure that the design was what I wanted, the colors, the branding, the voice, everything that we talked about for you is also what you have to look out for the client and make sure that it's all there. I'm making sure that if I send billboard creative in, that when they blow it up, it's not pixelated, like it's good quality. I'm the go-between for that. I have to answer to that. He doesn't have to answer to that. I do. So making sure that quality of work is there and the voice and the branding is there, that's on me. It's not on him if I didn't tell him or if I let him use an old logo and I didn't catch it and I send it to the client for final approval. How bad does that look on me? And then they're going to wonder why they're paying me. And, it just snowballs from there. Next slide. And then building those long-term relationships. So along with going to coffee, do you feel comfortable asking them to lunch? Do you just have a regular, like once every couple of months, you bring your client coffee? Can you have a lunch meeting instead of a at the office meeting? So building long-term relationships with your cohorts, with other freelancers you're going to use, with the people that are also your clients. So not just being business, there's a level there, like a business friendly, maybe I would call it, where you want to, talk about other stuff like how's your day going? You maybe find out about their kids, you find out about their dog, remember those things, check in about them. Everybody has their boundaries, so you don't want to, I don't know, be weird and creepy about it, but definitely, clocking what's going on in their lives, following up about it, uh, and creating that friendly environment. So you're not just business, but they also have a level of comfortability with you so they can chat with you about things if things aren't going where they wanted them to go. It doesn't feel too I don't want to say weird because business people will have those conversations, but maybe it's a little bit easier for them to bring it up because some people won't bring it up. And then you are left with not knowing information, which goes into another slide. So here is the big one, and I didn't even put pictures on it because it's more serious, but managing client expectations, which again took me a while to do because it can be awkward. And sometimes having those conversations feels really bad and weird because we don't normally have to have these conversations when things are going well, but that is when we should have them. When things are happy, when things are going well, that's when we want to set those expectations so that when things aren't going well, we can refer back to that and it's not a surprise. So setting your clear boundaries. When are you available to have meetings? When are you available to talk? Make it clear what you are and aren't providing. So for instance, on these boundaries, I'm a night person. So a lot of times my clients will get emails from me at midnight or 1 in the morning. They're not going to hear from me at 8 in the morning. But I might hear from them from 8 in the morning, but they know that I'm a night person. So maybe my day doesn't start until 9 or 10. And just kind of organically, when you are having conversations, just let them know kind of how you work. And then also let them know when you're emailing them at midnight, you are not expecting a response. It's not something that's on fire because some people that can stress them out a little bit. So when you're talking about boundaries, you're also talking about what you are and are not providing. And this is when contracts come into play. Maybe your lawyer comes into play. When I signed up back in the day, I used LegalZoom to do everything. So I got some great contracts from LegalZoom, and I use a lot of those to this day. So I have every client sign a contract. So everything is laid out. We both understand what is going on. In mine, it's all the legalese and it says like services that will be provided are outlined in Exhibit A. So under my Exhibit A, I have what agent, which is usually what I'm referred to, will provide. So I outline the social media management I'm going to provide, the spending I'm going to provide, what services come with what we're doing. So if it was like a website or graphics like Jenny provides, what exactly are you providing? Because that can be a slippery slope too, where they're like, I just need another one. And maybe you give it to them, maybe you don't. Maybe you refer to the contract and say that's extra. A lot of times when Steve and I bid jobs together, because the contract I sign is usually just for my fee. And then I say we have a table we put in there of like what a 30-second commercial will cost, what one graphic will cost, so that along with knowing what I will provide, they have a set price sheet of what a la carte they can get as well. So they know it's above and beyond, because I can't promise Steve's creative to somebody. I'm going to have to pay him out of pocket then, because he's going to get his money, whether it be for me or the client. So sometimes it's nice to put that too. So maybe you're going to provide social media management and media placement, but you're not going to provide, I don't know, what's something else that there is that I'm newsletter. Maybe you're not going to do the newsletter for them, but that could be an a la carte thing that it would be so much a month to do their newsletter. So you could add that in the contract just so we are very clearly communicating about what is and is not going to happen in this relationship that you're building. So handling feedback and revisions, it is very normal to have revisions on creative. It is very normal to have more conversations about the media planning. So maybe they're on the fence about a billboard, maybe they're on the fence about a radio commitment, and you just have to find out why and talk through that. Sometimes when people have not placed media before, they're new to marketing, it's a sticker shock on what creative costs, what websites cost, what it costs to have an ad in your local online newspaper. It's expensive. It's not cheap. And so there can be sticker shock, and you have to work them through that. So a lot of times I sit down when we're planning. I like to have a year's budget. Some clients have that, some only know month to month. So we're planning, as best we can. And you kind of have to talk them through why you think this is the best, or what else you can do if they're not in for that amount of money, and you just have to walk them through that process and be open to them. Not every client is going to have the exact same process every single time. And so you just have to more learn what they're doing. And so I like to make lists, as I've said before. And so when I'm in a meeting with a client, I am taking notes. And then at the end of the meeting, I like to reiterate, okay, so I am going to place this ad, look into this, do this, do this, do this. You are going to give me your logo. You are going to give me this. You're going to sign this contract when I send it over. I like to reiterate what came of this meeting, because they're an hour long sometimes, and that's a lot to talk about. We get talking in different tangents and whatnot, and so it's good to reiterate what is going on, and then they know that meeting was productive and the expectations from that. And then, of course, you just have to learn what works for them, learn how they work. Again, that goes back to your meeting schedule, budgets, boundaries, contracts, all of that. We all have to deal with difficult clients. It is a fact of being a freelancer, whether you want to or not. And difficult means different things to different people. I do not find it difficult when a client doesn't want to run an ad I suggest. That's not difficult to me. We can talk through that process. They often win because they control the money, but a difficult client to me is somebody who gets mad because they don't have business, even though they're paying you to get them business. A difficult client to me is somebody who wants you to do um, creative, wants you to do a commercial that you don't want to put your name on. Can kind of be somebody I would kind of classify as difficult, because you can't come to an understanding of how you should proceed. And that is where, again, the expectations that you've already set when things were happy and mutual come back into play. So you can have that conversation with those clients and say, hey, I'm placing this marketing to the best of my ability and research. I've got all these numbers, because of course your media reps are always going to want to give you numbers about how great their media is. So we studied this, we placed this. There are no guarantees in marketing. Just because you spend 100 grand this year does not mean they got one new client. But that's also why you want to try things for a month or 3 months, and then you might have to bob and weave with that. So knowing that, from your perspective, that you can't always, or you should never set it and forget it. You should always be monitoring things. You should always be monitoring the Google ads, the Facebook ads, the Instagram ads you're running. And you should know when to cut your losses and try a different technique, and communicating that to your client of, okay, we're going to try this. We're going to do it for 3 months. Let me know how many new clients you're getting. Let me know what your bottom line is. Does that person ask, how did you hear from us? Give us those stats. That again is where that communication comes from. Sometimes it doesn't work out. In 14 years, I've had one client that I fired, and I've had a couple of clients where after 6 months, it's just not working out. We're not jiving. Like whatever the expectations of both sides were are just not being met. I also have other clients I've had for 6 years or 4 years, and those are great and they work out and they go through the ebbs and flows because maybe they just understand a little bit more, or it's just working. And so that's okay. That is normal. And it's something that you should reflect on and you should think about so that you don't make the same mistakes going forward. But it's going to happen. It's a little inevitable when you do freelance work for a long time. And then, of course, when you deal with difficult clients, like maybe they do want more products than you had offered them in your retainer fee or whatnot, you just have to be strong about those boundaries that you set. And then maybe it's time to revisit the contract and rework what the offerings are and the price. So sometimes that has to be done as well. We could go on and on. I see that Julie has a lot. I'm sure she can add to this as well, because we have all been there. This is the basics of your freelance work, starting your business, finding clients, jiving with your clients. And I think that was kind of I think the next slide is Q&A. So that is kind of where we're starting this series at.
Perfect. Awesome. Jenny, Dana, thank you so much. That was a wealth of information. I have learned so much in just a short amount of time, so I'm pretty excited. So I do see we have a couple questions in here. Some of them maybe not. And let's see. I have one. The first question, let's go. Maybe Jenny, you might be able to answer this. Zion has asked, should we meet with a lawyer to file an LLC? And where can we file an LLC? Is there an official website or something that we can find online ourselves?
Yeah, so really good question. And in filing the LLC, I actually asked my accountant for advice on that. And she kind of guided me in the right direction. If you are if you have a lawyer already, or if you know you want to have a lawyer on your team, it's a very good idea to ask a lawyer. They can also file the paperwork for you. In Colorado, that paperwork is filed with the Secretary of State. And so on the Secretary of State's website, you can find all of the resources that you need, as far as, the documents that you need to file. Now that my business has been in existence for a while, it's where I go to submit the annual reports, check on things. Like if I'm doing a new process, sometimes you need to have a good standing certificate. So that's where you get that document as well. So that's in the state of Colorado, the Secretary of State website is where you can do all of that filing and get all that information and keep updates on your business.
Cool.
Thank you so much. And I'm gonna look into it. I hope that it's the same for Florida. But yeah, I guess it would be the Secretary of State.gov or
Yeah, let me see. It should be something like that. I just took a quick look and it looks like here's a link with some information for Florida. Oh wait, nope, don't ignore that. I didn't read everything there. Here we are. I think. Limited liability. Okay. Yep, here's filing options. Similar website, but this includes better filing options. And so it looks like, you can pay online. It goes through the articles of organization and all of that kind of stuff. So it looks like that's where you can file online in the state of Florida.
okay, thank you. And I'm sorry if this is like too much of a personal question, but I was just curious to know, like where did you go to find your lawyer for your business?
I got a couple of recommendations.
Mm,
And I've actually had a couple of different lawyers. Well, I've had two different lawyers that I've used. The first was a recommendation that I got just kind of as I was just getting started and really wanted some specific advice for the business. And then I have recently reached out to a different lawyer for different reasons. And that recommendation came from a different person, but a friend of mine who works at, and actually this could be a really good resource as well. A friend of mine owns a co-working space. And so she knows all kinds of freelancers and contractors of all kinds. And so I asked her if she had a recommendation for a lawyer who is familiar with the freelance world and working with independent contractors. And so she gave me the most recent recommendation.
okay. Yeah, so I guess just through like connections and word of mouth. Because I was
Mhm.
gonna look online, but I don't want to take up too much time, but thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Cool. I have a question for Dana. What is LegalZoom? What is that?
LegalZoom is, I think, one of the O.J. Simpson trial lawyers made it. I can't remember. Alan Shapiro. But LegalZoom is a place where you can go. So again, 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago, the web was not what it was now. And I didn't know to go to the Secretary of State's website, even though now I pay them every year. And I bought a package that, so they're a legal site. You can do contracts on there. They will file all your LLC. They'll do all of the filings for you for a fee. Again, if you can do it yourself, I would just probably do it myself these days, because then you don't have to pay the extra fees on top of the state fees. But in signing up with them, I got access to their database for like a year. So I had access to all of the prefab contracts they had and everything. And so that's how I got my freelance contract. And to this day, that is what I use as a contract with my clients. So you could Google them, see what they offer if it interests you, but otherwise I would do what Julie said and just register with your state. I just really dabble in Wyoming, and so I don't need to have LLCs registered in other states. You know, that's something to consider if you're going to want to register your name in other states, depending on what you're doing. But I am just in Wyoming. So otherwise, I would just go to the state. The Secretary of State is where we do it here as well. So I would just do it there. But at the time, it was a lot of cool resources for me. So,
Cool. Awesome.
yeah.
This might be a question for the both of you. You could probably answer in your own ways. Would you recommend first working for a bigger company before starting your own freelance business to gain that experience? How do you kind of combat that insecurity of starting to charge for your skills?
Um, sure, I'll take this one. My career outside of freelance is kind of zigzag all over the place. And so it includes on the creative side, it includes work for our local newspaper, work for the creative team with events production company that did work around the globe, work with a digital marketing agency, work with a more traditional marketing agency, and so everywhere that I've worked, I've kind of picked up different skills and also different connections, um, and I definitely the the creatives that I work with now, I have absolutely worked with in the past through working at those bigger businesses, like outside of my freelance world. And so it's kind of like it's benefited me to have that experience of working for a bigger shop in a variety of different ways, in addition to being able to hone my skills and learn how, different ways of managing clients. Because Dana's absolutely right. That can be so tricky. And if you're not on it right away, you can get really stuck really fast. Um, and so just seeing all these things in work in play and how um, people work together has been really beneficial. But with that said, I did start my freelance company a long time ago before I had all of these experiences. And so my own business and my own skill set that I can offer to clients has definitely grown over time. And so it's kind of changed my business model and what I do.
I love that is all very true. And I would just add, when I first started, one of my first clients, I charged $200 a month, which makes me laugh now because that was not enough. Because I also was so nervous about what to charge. And to me, marketing is easy. Marketing comes naturally. I understand it. My degree is in it. I've done it professionally for years. And so to me, it just wasn't worth a lot of money, which is funny to say, but that was the truth. I was like, oh, this takes me not a lot of time to do because I had worked in it in many capacities, like Jenny did for a long time. And then after a couple years, I grew from that charge. But then over the years, I saw a quote, and I don't know who quoted it, but it was, "You're not paying for the time it takes me to do the work. You're paying for the years I have experience in to do the work in that little of time. And that has really helped me charge over the years. And now I charge a lot more than that. But when I think about lowballing myself, I remember that I can do it quickly. I can get contracts quickly. I can place things quickly because of my understanding and the relationships that I have taken time to cultivate over the years. And so that is something to think about as well. It's hard for all of us, I think, charging. Charging, I think, is one of the harder things personally. But
Yeah. Awesome. Two more questions, it looks like. One, media reps. My first thought is HARO. What does this term media reps cover? Not sure if
that's a journalism term, right?
Uh,
Journalism for
you might be
articles and
thinking of
stuff?
peso,
Oh,
paid, earned, shared, and owned.
oh.
I don't know what Haro is.
I don't know what it is in context to
Oh,
media
help a
rep.
reporter out.
Andy, hey Andy.
Oh, hi. I didn't want to interrupt. I wasn't sure if I should speak. So I recently learned about that as well. It's a way, so like you see a lot of websites where it says as seen on. And
Okay.
it's a connection with journalists so that you, like if they ask a question or are looking for a reference, you can say, oh, I can answer that. That's the only media rep kind of connection I have in my head.
Okay.
That's not it. I was curious what that meant.
So I like to so I deal with, because we're like 60,000 people in Casper, so radio is still very popular. We only have a couple of radio stations. So when I talk about media reps, I'm talking about my local, like my radio station people. I'm talking about we have a very popular digital online newspaper of sorts. I don't know that they call themselves a newspaper, but it's where all the news is. And so I cultivate those relationships. I take them out to coffee, chat with them, I'm very friendly with them. We have a statewide digital newspaper that's the same way, talk to them. Other ad agencies, I am friendly with them as well because some of them own some media outlets in town. So like the movie theaters, one of our ad agencies, but they're not an agency anymore, had the bag on all of the movie theater. So became very friendly with them. Coffee. Sometimes you don't have to take them out to coffee. It's just a very easy thing to do, I guess. But became friendly with them over emails and, would of course give them business. So they were nice to me as they wanted my business. And so it's just cultivating that friendship, which you can do, just with a quick little sentence like, I was at the lake today and burnt half my face and then had to be on a webinar. Like, how's your day going? Like, that kind of thing. So just starting to kind of be friendlier with them if you can't bring them out to coffee or have those one-on-one meetings. There's billboards in town. There's, those different reps that I know locally that I need to use for my clients, and I don't want a bad relationship with them. Maybe bad media relationships is for another one because I can also talk about that because I've not always been graceful in my younger age. um, and so just having that one-on-one, like right now I placed two clients with the movie theater and I got a $50 a month discount for both of them because I'm friendly with them and not friends. Like I don't just see them on the weekend, but I would consider them friends because we've dealt with each other for years and I bring a lot of people their way. And so now I can get discounts for my clients, which just is an added advantage for me, really. Because then I'm like, hey, I worked you out this deal when really they just gave it to me because they like me. And I'm like, oh, I really, really had to get them down in money. So, and that's what I mean when I'm talking about media reps.
And then I think the second part of that question, if a client asks you to make additions after you've signed a contract, let's say a small addition, at what point do you redo the contract?
So Jenny, that maybe matters more with design questions.
Yeah, that is scope creep. As you're
Okay.
working, yeah, that's the term that I've heard and used
Okay.
for that. And um there are a couple of ways to handle that. And the one way Dana gave a great piece of advice as far as, in addition to your contract and the overall charge for the job as described, indicating clearly what any extra work is going to cost. And in my case, what I tend to do is indicate clearly, like, this is what it will cost me for extra hours of work. This is what it will cost the web developers for extra hours of work. If there's anyone else, like if they need an extra run of photos, if they need an extra illustration, if they need an extra whatever the case may be, just indicating clearly up front what that looks like. But there are cases where, you know, they decide they need something else. They need an additional set of services or an additional project that they're like, okay, well, you know, we're working on the website, but I really need this related social strategy or this related ad copy. And at that point in time, I tend to do just a whole new contract for that, and just say, like, this is this new project, you know, because that tends to clarify things. You know, if you're editing a contract, I feel like that can get a little bit tricky and even a little bit confusing for the client, you know. So I've found that it's easier to just create a new contract, even if it's a small little project, or, you know, smaller than the project at hand, just to clarify, like, this is this extra thing that we're going to do, and it's going to cost this additional bundle of money, and these are the expectations laid out for that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that would be the last question that I see on our chat. So that kind of concludes this webinar series. Want to say thank you to everyone who has participated and asked questions and attended. I think it's been helpful for a lot of us here. You will, who are still in here and are listening, you will receive an email from me personally with a link to this recorded session. So if you did miss a little bit of it, it will be here for you in a bit. I also will send out a survey because I'm very, very interested to see what you guys as professionals entering into the fields are looking for, and what professional resources do you need from places like this. So definitely take that 5 minutes to fill out that survey that you'll get from me. And thank you, Jenny and Dana, again. This was awesome. And we'll have another one very soon. So everyone stay tuned on that one. So
Bye, everybody.
Bye.